Peter Goldsworthy from South Australia is a man of many talents. He graduated in medicine from the University of Adelaide in 1974. He has worked as a GP and also in a rehabilitation centre for alcoholics. It defies belief that he found time to write his beautifully crafted short stories. They cover a wide range of human experience, and his short story anthology, Archipelagos, published by Angus and Robertson in 1982, is evidence enough of this. Being a man of great achievement himself, it's clear that he deplores waste of talent when he sees it in others. Today's story from Archipelagos is on this theme. It's about an Aboriginal boxer of great promise caught between two worlds, one of striving for success, the other of taking the easy way out. The story is called Cranky Fella, and it's from the already mentioned Archipelagos. I'm Kim Dodsworth. This is the Queensland Storyteller. It was winter, the still time of the year. No more country shows, no more travelling around, no more fights till spring. The boss had paid us coloured fellas off and the money was jingling in my pocket. It was the jingling that started it all. I'd gone back up the river to stop with my people. My auntie, who fetched me up after my mama died, and all my cousins. My uncle was away shearing at the time, but he'd been going away as long as I could remember. Even when he was home he was away, my auntie used to say. Away on the drink. Not that you could blame him for that. There was nothing much else to do on the river except drink, and I don't mean river water. And if you didn't like drinking alone, there was always any number of people only too happy to share it with you. I reckon they could hear the jingling in my pocket for miles. Suddenly I had a mob of relatives I'd never even seen before following me around. My auntie would push them out the front door, and they'd come in the back, or even through the windows. Pretty soon I was spending most days down at the pub with them. It was easier than fetching drink back home all the time, and there was no auntie preaching into my ear at the pub. Mobs of money and mobs of drink. That's how it happened, I reckon. I always get a bit cranky after a few drinks, and I'd had more than a few when the Greek fella came in. I got nothing against white people mostly, but wogs are different. Just got here yesterday and they think they own the place. To make it worse, of course, half the time they do own the place. Every second fruit block on the river seems to belong to a wog now. Anyway, this one was steering a bit much, and some of the coloured fellas started pushing him around. Nothing cranky at first, just having a bit of fun. But suddenly he had a knife in his hand and had sieved one bloke and was coming at me. He had picked the wrong fella, though. Tommy Country, I was christened. But in the fight tents, they just called me Cunt for short. And I was even more of a cunt when the drink was burning holes in my belly. A real wild man, a proper mile, my auntie would say. So I hit this Greek fella a few times and someone broke a glass for me and I hit him again. The drink or something wouldn't let me stop. Maybe the cops were Greek too. Next thing I knew, they were thumping the shit out of me. And when there was no more shit left to thump, they sent me down to the city. The blokes in the jury weren't Greeks, but they might as well have been, because the rest of the court was full of them, jumping up and down in the pews, yabbering at the judge, getting chucked out for shouting and bursting back in. I reckon the jury blokes were even more scared than I was. Manslaughter, they finally decided, and put me in for 5 years. The fellow who did my talking said that it was self-defence, that I should have got off, but 5 years seemed fair enough to me. It was my first spell, but I stuck it out all right. I had to buy smokes for a few people first, of course, but after that they left me alone. I was too ugly for anything else, one said. No teeth. And out he got into one fight with another Greek. The bosses chucked me into security for that. C block bottom. There was a sign on the wall, I remember. No talking unless given permission. When I asked for permission, they said I was talking and got stuck into me. 3 of the bastards. But fair enough. I reckon if I was stupid enough to fall for that trick, I deserved a biffing. I behaved myself for the rest of my spell, and they sent me up to the farm for my last year. Things were better there. Easy work, good tucker, and cowboy pictures every Saturday night. It wasn't far from the river either, and on Sundays my people sometimes came to see me. Contact visits, they were called, on the lawns. and behind the bushes too, if wives came and the bosses looked the other way. It was up on the farm that I started fighting again, but with gloves on this time. Mr. Eddie, one of the bosses, fancied himself as a trainer, and there was a fight every fortnight. He'd been a middleweight himself, he liked to tell us, and was going to be the best until his accident. He wasn't a bad bloke for a boss. He made me work a bit harder than I liked, but maybe it was good for me. Us carnival fighters never used to bother, just thumped away at each other till one fell over and played dead. We didn't have to be fit. Everyone took turns at winning. But the fights were serious on the farm. We'd all been locked up too long, I reckon, and had to get it out of us. I remember my first fight especially. Big white fella who looked as if he wanted to kill me. He was way over my weight, and after he hit me a couple of times, I just tried to stay out of reach, stinging him on the shoulders and head. It was after that fight that Mr. Eddie took me aside. He had a mate in the city, he told me, a promoter. When I got out, I should look him up. But when I got out, I fetched myself straight back to the river. And the drink. I had a bit of money, and it would last till the carnival came through. Trouble was, my auntie wouldn't get off my back. I reckon Mr. Eddie had been talking to her. "Cranky black fella," she nagged. "Same like your uncle. Too much fighting, too much drinking. You're going to fight so much, you go along a city. Might be get paid for it." She yabbered on all day, and I had to listen. Since they warned me off at the pub, there was no place else to go. Eventually, my ears just wore out, and I bought some shorts and boots and went. I had some cousins in the city, and stopped with them for a time, but then our money ran out, and I ended up looking for the gym. Seemed easier than working on the roads. "Yeah, Eddie wrote about you," the boss bloke said. "But that means nothing here. He's no judge. Couldn't fight his way out of a wet paper bag. He liked to see things for himself," he went on, "especially fighters who'd done time. Often as not, they ended up doing more time. But he stuck a helmet and gloves on me all the same and shoved me into the ring with another bloke. 'Okay, darky, let's see you hit him.' I tried to, but he kept his head down, his hands up and his feet back pedalling. After 5 or 10 minutes of hitting nothing but gloves and air, I was buggered, and after another 10 I could hardly move. That's when he dropped his guard and ripped one into my stomach, barely on the belt. 'That's lesson 1, darky,' the boss yelled. 'This ain't no 3-round travelling circus. You got to be fit and you got to pace yourself.' I was too far gone to argue, and I was even further gone as the weeks went by. Kilometres of road work, hours of jerking weights and thumping bags. It hurt more and more every day, and seemed more and more crazy. Then I heard that my auntie was sick, and I had to go up to the river. Maybe I would have come back afterwards, or maybe not. I never had a chance to find out. 'You darkies are all the same,' the boss said. 'First sniff of work, and you go walkabout. Well, you can stay walkabout, matey.' I still think about it sometimes, when I see the pictures in the paper. The big name fellas, the big prizes. But it couldn't be worth it. Nothing could be worth that much hurt. Up here it's the still time again. The river slides past, the drink slides down, the money jingles in my pocket. And when it's gone, there'll be another carnival." And that was Cranky Fella by Peter Goldsworthy. There'll be another fine Australian short story this time next week. This is your reader, Kim Dodsworth, signing off until then.